Hello, welcome to my journey to the media world. We often talk about my journey to the media world, but today we'll be talking about Johnny Phillips' journey within Sky Sports. First of all, Johnny, thanks for taking the time to speak to me. At what point in your career did you know that sports reporting was for you?
I'd say fairly early on. As a school kid, I always loved playing football, cricket. I was pretty obsessed playing football in the playground. And then when it came to a point of thinking about careers, I was looking at a media degree because obviously I wasn't good enough to play the game professionally. But I thought, well, maybe I'd like to report on the game. So I had an idea that it was something from a fairly early age that I wanted to get into and wanted to explore. So I was lucky that I got in my head quite quickly a sort of a career path that I could at least attempt.
What was it like stepping into a big broadcasting company like Sky Sports, and obviously you've been there for as long as you've
time? Yeah, I've been there a long, too long, perhaps some would say. It was quite inspiring because the studios, are quite impressive. There's the cameras, the lights, all of that. It did feel a bit glitzy when I first moved down, and when I first started out on television, it was quite intimidating and almost frightening in a way. I had a lot of nerves. It's good to have nerves, but not too many nerves. So it did feel a big step going to Sky because I've been in regional media before that, and then to suddenly go with a huge broadcaster around the country. It did feel like a big step, and it did take some adjusting to, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously one of your famous moments at Sky Sports, we can't go without mentioning it, Leicester City versus Watford, playoff semi-final. You're already high in emotions because of the penalty, and then Troy Deeney goes and does the unthinkable. Just talk us through your emotions.
Yeah, it was a great game because aside from what happened, it was all set up. It was a last-minute penalty decision that could have taken Leicester into the final, and Watford felt aggrieved that it should never have been given. So the whole game hinged, and it was about the 6th or 7th minute of injury time, I think, as well, the last minute. The whole game hinged on this huge moment. So I was obviously very excited when Jeff Stelling came across to me, without thinking all this could happen, that the keeper could save it. The keeper would then save the rebound. Watford would hack it clear, and then they go straight up the pitch and score. And because of the playoff situation, it wasn't they were scoring an equaliser. It was gone from one team potentially winning it, Leicester with the penalty, to then Watford going on and winning it. The game had completely flipped. You don't often get a game completely flipping like that. And it was obviously hugely exciting, and I was getting more and more excited, and ended up one of my colleagues said it was a bit of a scoregasm, and I thought that's probably a decent way of describing it. And there were lots of fans invading the pitch, flares going off and everything. It was just one of those moments. I was lucky to be there.
Yeah, lucky to be there, you say. And also, you've had a lot of, spent a long time at Sky Sports, so you mentioned there about that probably one of being your biggest highlights. What other highlights is there in terms of broadcasting?
I always enjoy doing the manager interviews in the tunnel after the game, because they can be quite fraught, tense environments. So that's always a good test when you speak to the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and Jose Mourinho in particular after a game, depending on how it's gone. They can be tricky situations. But I guess the stuff that I'm probably stuff I found most rewarding is probably when I've been making documentaries. I've had the chance at Sky to make a few documentaries, and that involves lots of filming, lots of preps, lots of time in the edit suite to produce either a hour-long documentary. And I find that being able to work on different skill sets and bring a story together, I find that particularly rewarding.
And also, you're a massive Wolves fan. First of all, talk us through how that come about, because I can hear you got a little bit of a Liverpool accent. Yeah,
I am one of the few Scouse Wolves fans there are. There are a couple of them I know of, but it's through my dad. He moved from Ireland in the mid-50s to London, and the first game he saw was Tottenham against Wolves. Wolves were a great big team in the 50s. He loved the gold kit. He used to watch them whenever they came down to London after that moment, having seen them play once, and then he eventually moved to Liverpool, and then he met my mum in Liverpool, settled there, and they had me there. And perhaps as a child of the 80s, I should have supported Liverpool or Everton, who were the two best teams in Europe, but I went along to watch Wolves with my dad, who were in the 4th division back then.
Yeah, and obviously you've combined your love of sports reporting and your love of Wolves and combined them together. So what's that like, being able to do that, and obviously writing for them, doing the end of season dinners? Quite a surreal feeling, I imagine.
Yeah, surreal's a good word. obviously supported them as a fan for many years before I decided to go into the industry, and then covering them so extensively has just been incredible to get to know the club and meet all the different players and managers down the years. So I'd say I'm in a privileged position. I am still a fan at heart, but professionally, it's nice to be able to cover the team you love, but also it's fairly easy to keep a professional distance as well, because that's the sort of job.
Yeah. What about the writing side of things? Do you feel it's very much you've got a blank canvas and you're free to do whatever you want?
Yeah, when I write for the Express and Star, the column I do every Saturday, that's literally what they said to me: write about whatever you want, and that's great. The writing I do for Sky Sports, it tends to be tied to the programs and the features I'm making, so they link together. But yeah, and the books I've done, again, a blank canvas. So I love the writing. I'd say the writing probably comes a bit more naturally to me than broadcasting. I find it more a comfortable environment and something I can pick up and put down and do it at my own pace. So I particularly enjoy the writing.
Yeah, you mentioned the books there. You've got a Soccer Saturday one and a Wolves one. Talk us through what was that like writing it, and obviously two very important books.
Yeah, they were great books for me to write. The first one is called Saturday Afternoon Fever: A Year on the Road for Soccer Saturday, and that was just a collection of stories of people who I felt had a story worth telling, that I wanted to put to print and let their story be heard, as it were, or read at least. And that was really good fun to write, and it was just a collection of interviews with people from all over the country, the more quirky or interesting interviews I'd done down the years at Soccer Saturday. And the Wolves one, Bitten by Wolves, is sort of a potted history of how the club's got to this point. I decided a while ago, once the Chinese owners took over, that it was a club that was changing, and a club that was going through quite existential change. So I wanted to chronicle the ups and downs, the highs and lows of how Wolves have got to where they have. So again, I spent a year doing it, meeting ex-players, managers, fans who were brilliant to talk to, and other people behind the scenes at the club, ex-staff members, just to try and paint a picture of why Wolves is so special and unique, and hopefully I managed to do that.
Yeah, and in terms of your time working with Wolves, what would you say your best memory is?
I had a great time in the summer in China with them, where we made an hour-long programme of their trip to China. That was probably the highlight. They've been getting to meet my hero, Steve Bull, who's way before your time, but a great player for the club. I've done lots and lots of work with him through Wolves, and we've since gone on to do our own theatre shows and Q&A nights, which have been brilliant fun. And so working with your hero as well, that's pretty special.
Yeah, and very finally, I'm a young aspiring journalist, and I find it fascinating that you can make a living out of something you enjoy and your real passion. So what advice would you give to a young aspiring journalist like me?
I'd say you've sort of taken the first steps already, that you're aspiring to something and you're passionate about it. I think that's half the battle if you found something that you set on. My advice would be to always look out for opportunities. They come in strange places at times. You never know who you might meet that will help you and give you some tips and advice on where to go, contacts, whatever it may be. And also, don't be afraid to get a knock and take a setback. It's quite a competitive industry. There are a lot of knockbacks. You have to keep on trying and trying again to try and push the door open. So I'd say you need to be determined. You need to be focused on and driven in terms of what you want to do, and you've clearly got the passion. So that's a great start.
Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you, especially if, for me, aspiring to do something similar to you. Something a bit different here on the channel, getting an insight into what it's actually like working in the media. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications. Till next time, goodbye. Hit the subscribe button and follow my journey to the media world. Click the video choices on screen to see more of my work.